I'm joined by Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury, James Murray. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Difficult to say that, isn't it?
Yeah, tax minister is the other word for it.
Oh,
Sometimes they say that's
much,
easier.
That's so much simpler. Good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us. So first this week, we learned that the personal information of nearly 19,000 Afghans had been released in error back in 2022. We're now told that also the information about around 100 Britons, including current and former members of the UK's Special Forces and Security Service, have also been contained in that data breach. I mean, this is one of the worst security breaches in modern history, isn't it?
Well, it absolutely underlines how important it is and how serious a matter this has been, that this data has been released. As you said, we knew about the Afghan individuals on there. Now we learned that Special Forces were on there as well. And as a government, we wanted to put that information into the public domain so people are aware of just how serious this data breach under the previous government was. Obviously, there are limits to what we share because we want to make sure we're keeping people protected. But we wanted people to realise what happened under the previous government and quite how serious this was. And now, obviously, the information is in the public domain, and various parliamentary committees, the Defence Select Committee and so on, will be looking into it to find out just what happened.
Are any of these UK personnel still at risk?
So there are limits to what I can say, and I need to be careful about how much information is appropriate for me to share. But we know that the Special Forces names were on this list, and that really underlines just how shocking this data breach was and how significant it was and how important it is we get to the bottom of what happened in the past and make sure that we keep those people safe.
You say that there are limits to what you can say, but do you have concerns about the safety of some of these Special Forces?
Well, I know that all Special Forces receive heightened security as a matter of course to make sure that they are protected, and the people who are affected by this data breach have received additional advice to help them out specifically because they were involved in that data breach. So there is support being given to them to make sure that they're kept safe. But obviously we need to work out what happened under the last government and make sure that it never happens again.
Well, yes, and the Liberal Democrats would say that the best way to do that is to hold a public inquiry. Would you back that for full transparency?
Well, I think let's take it one step at a time. So the information has just come out into the public domain. We've had the chair of the Defence Committee saying that he wants to investigate what's going on. I think the Intelligence and Security Committee might be looking into it as well. So we've got various parliamentary committees making their own inquiries to start getting into it. Obviously, the media and the public more widely will be looking at the information as well. And what I hope is that...
So it sounds like you're not minded to back a public inquiry.
Well, I'm just saying we haven't got to that stage yet. So we're letting the process play itself out where the select committees in Parliament, Defence Committee and so on will be having a look at it. And what I hope is that the ministers under the previous government will come along to those committees and give full evidence as appropriate and make sure that we have full transparency on this as far as possible, because I think people need to know what happened. And I think the previous ministers need to make sure they cooperate with that process. I'm sure they will, but I think now we have a process with the committees in Parliament looking into this. We need to get to the bottom of what happened.
Let me move on to the issue of Diane Abbott, who's been suspended from the Labour Party after doubling down on comments about racism that she'd previously apologised for. I wonder what your reaction is to what she said.
Yeah, so what's happened is she's made comments in the last few days, or they've been broadcast in the last few days. These relate to comments she made in the past and which she apologised for at the time. Now, in the Labour Party, we have processes for handling issues like this. They need to be looked into. When they're being looked into, the person in question should be administratively suspended, and that's exactly what's happened. Now, when these processes are underway, it's right for people like me, ministers and MPs, not to comment on those processes, let them play out, let the issues be looked into, and hope that it gets resolved as swiftly as possible.
She's provided a statement to the BBC in which she said, "It's obvious this Labour leadership wants me out." Is there a way back for her into the Labour Party?
Yeah, well, look, it's not true that the Labour leadership wants her out. What's happened is that she's made these comments and she's been administratively suspended because that is the process the Labour Party has. And for all MPs, when they're suspended, the option of coming back is always there, depending how the process plays out. But as I say, there is a process, and we're really clear in the Labour Party that we need these processes. They need to be followed, impartially. Ministers like me not passing comment on it, and this now needs to play out swiftly.
OK, let's move on to Treasury issues. And your government's plans for welfare reform are in a mess after the Prime Minister backtracked to appease some backbenchers who weren't happy about the plans. To begin with, were you in favour of those original plans, which were designed to save £5 billion from the welfare bill, or did you have concerns about them?
Well, look, what everyone agreed with, for me and pretty much every MP in Parliament, certainly all of the Labour MPs who I've spoken to, everyone agreed that the welfare system is broken and needs to be fixed. Now,
but did you back those particular plans, which would have saved about £5 billion?
Well, yes, of course. As those plans were, we put them forward and we thought they were the right response. Now, obviously, there were conversations and debates in Parliament and there were changes made as they went through the parliamentary process. And we've now got a situation where we're making changes, which changes the rates of universal credit to make sure there isn't an incentive for people to sort of sign themselves off permanently, to exit from the labour market altogether, and encourages people back into work, along with that support to get people back into work. Because what we know is a lot of people have been written off and not getting the support they need to get back into work, and we need to get them into work wherever they can.
I want to talk about the money, though. That £5 billion, there's also other money that needs to be raised as well in the next budget. Your boss, Rachel Reeves, has ruled out rises in the main taxes. Just to clarify, that's correct.
We're sticking by our manifesto commitment around income tax, national insurance and VAT, taxes on working people. OK,
but freezing the thresholds on paying income tax beyond 2028 has not been ruled out.
Well, look, this is what happens in the run-up to budgets, and there's lots of speculation about lots of different tax measures, and you'll forgive me that I'm not going to get into that because the reason why...
So will you rule it out or not?
Well, what I can stick by is the commitment we made in the manifesto that you just referred to about not increasing income tax, national insurance and VAT on working people. There's a whole other range of questions about tax that you and other people in the media will ask me, starting now, right through until budget day, I suspect. And the answer is always going to be the same, which is that the Chancellor makes these decisions in the round at budget day. Now, budget day, if I can just say, budget day hasn't even been set yet. We don't even know what day the budget's going to be on. There'll be a forecast, there is a process to go through, and then the Chancellor takes all of the decisions about tax in the round.
OK, but you don't want to give specifics on what she's going to announce. However, would you acknowledge that there is a problem? You've got these £5 billion worth of savings that you've now lost from the welfare bill. There's all sorts of uncertainty around tariffs, for example. Growth is not doing what you would like it to do. This will have consequences, won't it? We have to accept that.
You're right to point out there is uncertainty around the world. The world has changed, a lot in the last year, and that will have consequences. But we know that what we're doing and what we're focused on is not just the tax side of the argument, but as you said, the growth side of the argument. And actually on growth, if you look at what happened in the first quarter of this year, we were the fastest growing economy in the G7. The IMF has uprated our growth forecasts over the course of this Parliament. If you look at some of the changes that we've made around planning, for instance, the big reforms that we've made to the planning system, that has boosted the economic growth forecast over the course of this Parliament. So we're determined to get the economy growing because we know that that is the long-term sustainable way to boost the public finances and put more money in people's pockets.
I just want to quickly ask you about the 5 days of strike that resident doctors intend to take if they don't come to an agreement with the government. They are obviously wanting a rise in their pay. Can the government afford that?
No, we're not going to change our position on pay. But what the Health Secretary is doing is talking with the BMA constructively in the conversations that he's been having about what else we can do to improve the working lives of resident doctors, because we don't want the strikes to go ahead. We started improving the NHS. In the first year, we've got 4.5 million more appointments. We started bringing waiting lists down. We started getting the NHS back on its feet. We want to carry on that work, and we want the resident doctors to work with us on that.
Could that include writing off some of their student debt?
Well, look, I'm not going to comment on live negotiations the Health Secretary's having, but
could we afford that, though?
Well, the Health Secretary's having these discussions with the BMA. They're constructive, and we all want the strikes to be averted. OK, well, James Murray, we appreciate your time. Tax Minister, I'm going to stick with that next time. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.